Right. So, the whole concept of marketing, obviously, is to get your product out. You know what I mean? But it's different because when you're talking about like soca music, Caribbean music, reggae music, whatever the case is, most times, I mean, working with the whole viral market sort of thing, you have Facebook, you have Twitter, you have Bebo, Instagram, you have so many different things. You know what I mean? Now, one of the key things that I think that people need to understand is when you use these different platforms, you're not really the owner of it. So, for instance, if Facebook goes into administration tomorrow morning, or Twitter goes into administration tomorrow morning, that means 64,000 followers, they just gone. That's it. You no longer have 64,000 followers. So what I try to do primarily is base everything back around me. When you purchase a domain name or you build a personal website, I call them personal information centers, like PIC. Because what it means is that when you purchase a domain name or you purchase services for like a web mailing system or whatever the case is, then you purchasing that service, you kind of have like a little bit of ownership over it, because it now means that the whole database belongs to you. Like using Microsoft Excel and that kind of stuff, you extracting those email addresses and putting them in that format. It basically means that if these companies go into administration tomorrow morning, then you still have access to that whole fan base. So when people use Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that, it's not really the end. It's just a way to get what you have out to people in different platforms. It just basically means that you using Facebook and Twitter and iTunes and all of them, you need to know how to use it. The trick in using it is that because they already market it to like a vast majority of people. You know what I mean? Like Facebook, for instance, is known practically everywhere in the whole entire world. Now, if they were to start like a whole new platform that does something like Facebook, because the marketing power isn't behind it, then that wouldn't really be relevant. But that might be a lot better. They might say to you, you know what, if you use registration.com, for instance, if you use them, we're going to give you like, £10 back of every 100 people that gets registered. But they don't get that marketing so people would know of their service. Then they wouldn't really be popular because people don't really know of their service. But Facebook might say, you know what, everybody that you get, they technically belong to us, and we can close down tomorrow morning. Like when Facebook changes its whole platform and people get so annoyed, Facebook changed again. You can't really do nothing because you're not paying for it. You know what I mean? But if you're paying for a service, like website domain names and those kind of stuff, because you're buying that service and you're paying for it, whatever terms and agreements you agreed to upon purchasing it, technically they kind of have to stick to that sort of thing. So whenever you're using these things, like, I know it's a very, very long task, but all those Twitter followers and Facebook, extract that information. Take the email addresses, take the telephone numbers, take everything that you can get and get that information for you personally. Then what you do is send a courteous introduction email. Like you can say, listen, I'm Scrappy, UK Soca Artiste, or whatever the case is. I got your email address or your information from Twitter. I'm just letting you know that I run a personal mailing service, and if you're interested in updates from me or my team or my label or whatever personally, then we would continue sending those messages. If you don't, then click unsubscribe. Boom. And they could say, you know what, I only want to know about tweets from you. I don't want to be on your mailing list per se. But it's just an introductory email to kind of say, well, look, I have a different way of being more connected with you. Because sometimes on Twitter, you don't really see all the tweets or whatever the case is. You know what I mean? Sometimes on Facebook, whatever happens, you don't go on Facebook for maybe like a day or two, depending on how busy your schedule is. Also, certain companies block those things. So when you're working for a company, somebody say, yeah, check my Facebook. Sometimes companies block those stuff because they think, look, we don't want to have social media here. But they could go directly to a website. So that's why I always urge people to, get websites. Because, Facebook being blocked and like, Facebook maybe changing or whatever the case is, then for all you know, they can basically do whatever they want. You know what I mean? I'm not saying don't use them, still use them. But when you use them, know how to maximize what you're getting out of them. Because for Facebook, they can say, look, we have 10 million followers, we're gonna go to Gatorade. Let's see, Gatorade, look, we have 10 million people following us. Let's talk. Gatorade might think, oh, okay, you have 10 million people. How can I get into that 10 million? I want to have Gatorade flashing all over Facebook. So technically, you now become like a driving source for Facebook, because you are now more valuable to Facebook than Facebook is valuable to you, sort of thing. You know what I mean? But they're telling you, you can interact with people, you can do all these amazing things, but technically you're worth more to them than they're worth you. If everyone wants to leave Facebook tomorrow morning, that's it. There's nothing that Facebook could do. You know what I mean? If everyone was to shift over to maybe a whole new platform of web interaction or whatever the case is, then technically that's it. You know, that's why when people leave, they panic that much. They're like, our numbers are getting low. How can we increase these numbers? You know what I mean? And this is why they offer you all these different So for the big corporate companies, it's great because, you know, they're giving you something free. Sign up on Facebook and they tell you all this amazing stuff. But technically, you're actually worth more to Facebook than Facebook is really worth to you. But it's you that need to know how to maximize getting everything out of it. For me personally, you know, I try to interact with like as much people as possible and let them know, look, there's a website. Other than Facebook, there's a website that you can go to. There's a mobile app that you can download. You know, and I mean, those are all things that you need to look at as well. I mean, as an artist being in the industry or as a product that wants to market or brand yourself, you need to look at like maybe the top 5 or the top 10 most popular services that are being used, and you need to make sure that you're involved in all of them. You know, Instagram came out and, you know, it was a slow uptake. You're like, no, Instagram. But then now Instagram is like probably one of the most popular things. You know what I mean? So for you now, need to, you know, be able to get that whole Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Bebo and all that kind of stuff. You need to make sure that, you know, whenever you're using them, that everything is well connected. You know, a next thing that I can advise people as well, whatever name you're going to be using, you just use that name straight across the board. Like for me, like Facebook is, you know, Scrappy Online, Twitter is Scrappy Online, Instagram is Scrappy Online. So, you know, that's your online profile itself. So, you know, even if somebody does a search for like Scrappy Online, boom, you get like the website that is scrappyonline.net. You get the Twitter that is like, you know, Scrappy Online. You get the Facebook that is Scrappy Online. You get the Instagram that is Scrappy Online. So you have all of that online profile sort of thing, rather than having Scrappy the Soca Artist, you know, Scrappy for Montreal, Scrappy it's just all over the place. So, you know, I mean, it's more easier, it's a lot more neater. You know, like whenever I speak to people, they're like, what's your online profile? Just tell them, look, just look up Scrappy Online and you get everything. Like, you know, you get the Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, website, all those kind of things. You know what I mean? So, I mean, marketing really, it's just about using all these different platforms and just kind of leapfrogging into, you know, different direction, or, you know, interacting with different people and knowing how to extract that information and bring it back to yourself, and then take that information and make it yours. Because sometimes you might have like 10,000 followers, but having 10,000 followers don't really necessarily mean that you have 10,000 supporters, kind of thing. If you understand what I'm saying, you know, they might just click follow because they just think, hey, you know, it's cool, I'll follow you. But then that 10,000, be willing to pay, you know, £10 to see you, £15 to see you, £20, would they be willing to pay 79 pence for a song or whatever the case is? You know what I mean? And next thing that I kind of advise people is, I know it's a bit tricky or whatever, but when you put your whole song out, like the full track itself, when you keep putting them out, when time comes for that album or that EP or whatever the case is, technically there's no reason to really support it because they already have everything. You know what I mean? So that's something as well that I really look at. You know, most times, not in a bad way, but I don't really send music to fans. I most send it to DJs and radio stations, because at the end of the day, DJs are still going to be passing it on anyway. And believe me, it's going to be leaking back to fans anyway. And if you're going to be leaking it to fans, you might as well maybe get a website and just redirect them back to your website again. So once again, you have the personal interaction with people. You know what I mean? I've been on this, you know, website thing since 2005 when I started, because I'd done that when I saw how High Five just went unpopular. After a certain while, no one uses High Five anymore. You know, and High Five, you know, they tried to, you know, reform themselves so many different times. MySpace as well, you know, they were really popular at one point and they just went down the drain. I mean, you know, Justin Timberlake, he bought it, but I don't know, it still hasn't picked up as yet. Or if it has, it's not as popular as, you know, all these different things. You know, so for me personally, I always tell people to make sure that you have that personal information center that people can always come back and get more information if they need more information. You know, I know a lot of UK artists that they don't have any websites, and you know, they don't have anything, and like not knowing what the Facebook name is, because sometimes you search for a name and you don't get it, and then what do? Like sometimes you could be Scrappy in line 10050. How is someone meant to know that that's the name? You know what I mean? So stuff like that, you try to stay away from stuff like that. So whenever you're researching the names, I mean, you know, you Google them, you research it, you make sure the names are available, and you spread it straight across every platform. You know, yeah, so that's about it really. I mean, for marketing, what I do for marketing, I go like hardcore. You know, I go into the marketing. I look in every aspect. Webmails, I look for text message services. I know that there's an app on the Android phone that you can get, that you can add up to maybe like 500 people and you just send out one text blast. So, you know, there's many different things that you can look at in terms of marketing. And next thing that is very, very, very tricky, putting stuff up on YouTube. You need to be very aware of what you're doing. When you put information up on YouTube, what YouTube does in the sidebar, it gives you a lot of information that is relevant to this information. Now let's say for instance, if someone wanted to book a band, looked up Scrappy and Tropical Storm, they saw it. Then next to it they saw Destra and Atlantic, they saw Edwin and Crossfire, they saw Sherwin and You. Now if I'm getting 1,000 hits and they're getting 4 million hits, instantly that person is gonna think, wait, why is this guy getting 4 million? And they're gonna click that 4 million. Now what you've automatically done was take that attention away from you and redirected it back to somebody else. So what you do when you get these web platform things, you can purchase, I think it's bandwidth space. So you purchase that bandwidth space and you embed that information back to you. So when that person searches for you, they get you, and not go on YouTube and get 15 different people that are similar to you, which maybe might outshine you. Not saying don't be confident about your work, but if you're going to be attracting like, you know, people to you or business to you, and you're going to be saying, you know what, I'm very good, but if you look in the left bar, you're going to see someone that's like, you know, 10 times more popular or get like 150 times more hits. I mean, realistically, if we're going to be talking about business, where you're going to be introducing competition back in your area again. You know what I mean? So when you're doing it, you need to know exactly what you're doing when you're putting up these videos on YouTube and, you know, these songs on YouTube and stuff like that. Because sometimes you get like, you know, 50 hits and then the next person get like, you know, 100,000 hits. Now business wise, I'm going to be thinking, okay, if you got 100,000 hits, let's say for instance every hit was a person that would purchase something, then I would more invest in the 100,000, because, you know, you're saying that 100,000 people would pay $1 or $5 or $10 or a pound or whatever the case is. So I mean, putting stuff up on YouTube, it's good, but when you put it up, just know exactly what you're doing when you put it up. You know, I mean, there's no getting away from it because everyone knows YouTube or whatever the case is. But when you're using these different platforms, just know how to use them, and every information, like I said, when you get it, because everybody needs to register with some sort of email address or online profile. So what you do, you try your best to get that information. And like I said, just an introductory email, let them know what you're doing, and if they're interested in what you have to do, then boom. It's the same as clicking subscribe or same as clicking like or whatever the case is, because if they're clicking like, then there's some sort of interest. So maybe they would like exclusive information. So yeah, that's about it. That's my tips really.